Because I do think that maybe some of the mood in the zeitgeist is also like a byproduct of what was a really disappointing game. So we are going to spend a part of the show at some point, I'm not sure yet, but talking about that. Were the tactics right? You know, I'm sure Stell's got some stuff to say regarding whether or not Thomas the Frank Engine was tactically superb as he has been in the previous 3 games. But before then, we are, of course, going to cover the breaking news, which is that the window is shut. And as far as we know, Xavi Simons is a new Tottenham player. Mohamed Kudus, Matisse Tell obviously had his loan move made permanent. Kevin Danso, Kota Takai, João Palhinha, and today we have signed Randall Kolo Muani. We're going to talk about the specifics and the semantics around whether that was opportunistic, an opportunistic window, or whether it was all by the by. Luba, I'll start with you, mate. Overall, how are you feeling, and specifically about Muani? Was it a surprise name on deadline day?
Yes, I thought if there was going to be a surprise centre forward wise, I thought it might have been Vlahovic. But happy to get Muani. It's funny how things change. You know, he had a choice of us, United and Juventus, in January. Quite naturally, you know, he's going to go for Juve, Champions League, near the top of the Italian Serie A, etc., etc. All of a sudden now, you know, we're 4th, Europa League champions, new manager. Things have changed a bit. Things are a lot more brighter for me than they were this time during the at the end of the last window. Very pleased with it. You know, he's a good player. You know, and you can never have enough good players. So I'm happy in terms of Muani. In terms of your question, we are short in the squad. I'm sure we'll get to that. We are left. Unfortunately, that seems to be the case all the time. But in terms of the 4 players that have come in, you've got, as Johnny said, you've got Spence, who signs a new contract. Romero signed a new contract. Mikey Moore signed a new contract as well. And I think the biggest plus for us this transfer window since the end of last season has been bringing in Thomas Frank. So overall, it's been very good.
Connor, I'll come to you next, mate. Kolo Muani, does he solve all of the problems that happen as a consequence of the various injuries we've had, like the departures of Sonny, injuries to Maddison, Decky, and obviously now Solanke as well? Does Muani cover over the gaps, or is it, you know, a monster signing?
I think it's a very good signing. I think it's a shrewd signing. The thing that's slightly disappointing for me is I think that gave you the opportunity with only getting him on a loan to go and spend the money on a left winger that we all know we desperately need. Because for me, Muani, although he can play out left and can play out right, he's definitely better down the middle, right? So, you know, I think if today had been Muani plus a left winger signing, I think we would have all been pretty ecstatic. It's sort of, I'm a bit lost in my head. We were chatting a little bit about it backstage, Sean, weren't we? You know, I think in terms of the 4 that have come in, it is clearly an upgrade in terms of the typical type of profile we've been going for, right? And you know, Palhinha and Muani obviously on loan, and then Kudus and Simons. But I think the other bit of context everyone just feels like, I suspect, is it does still feel a bit of a missed opportunity, particularly given the context that 2 of those 4 you brought in on loan. So you've saved budget, as it were, this summer. So I'm sort of at somewhere like a 7.5 out of 10. I'm sure we'll get into the specifics. But yeah, in terms of Muani specifically, happy with that as a signing. I think that's a good signing.
Yeah, nice one. Stel, what about yourself, mate? We're going to reverse engineer this. Let's start with Muani specifically, and then we can kind of work backwards. As a deadline day, transfer deadline day, did it give you what you wanted, or were you left feeling short?
I think it's a panic. I think he's bounced around clubs. He's never really settled anywhere because he's never really done it anywhere. I think we've taken a risk, but it could be a risk that works out, right? I think Thierry Henry, he bounced around clubs before it worked for him, and he landed at Arsenal and he became dynamite. So I'm not saying Muani's going to be Thierry Henry, people, but I'm just saying it's a risk. That's my opinion. I don't think it's a risk with Palhinha. I don't think it's a risk with Kudus, and I don't think it's a risk with Xavi Simons. I think they're all Very, very good players. I'm really happy with all
You
those
say
three
he
signings.
failed everywhere. Still, sorry. Did you just go back? You said to me he's failed everywhere. Where has he
No, I didn't
failed?
say that. I know
What
your
did you
your
say?
hearing aid's not working again. I
Is
said,
it? What did you say then?
I said that he's bounced around everywhere. He's never
Yeah.
really settled. So
You said he's
You
never
know-
really done it anywhere. Is what you said.
yeah, because he keeps bouncing around. He's never really settled anywhere and done it anywhere. For them to say, yeah, we want to keep you. I mean, look, if he was that electric,
Well, he
Juve
did.
wouldn't let him go.
He did. I mean,
Why,
the only
why
reason
is it whenever I speak, you've always got to interrupt me? Like, every time I start my speak, you've got. Yeah,
I'm
I
just
trigger
saying,
you. I trigger you too easily. I don't even try. Like my view. Right, look, let's do it. Just challenge me from the off. Let's just go in. The show
I'm
starts.
saying you haven't done it. You said Juventus never wanted to keep him. Juventus wanted to keep him, but they couldn't do it financially. So what? How's that?
I bet if he was that good, they would find a way to keep him financially, the way they keep all their other top players.
Well, they've been trying to do it the whole summer.
PSG, if he was that good, PSG would keep him as well. My view is this. I've praised Kudus. I've praised Xavi Simons. I did a 10-minute video on this channel saying I'm so delighted we signed Xavi Simons, and I explained why I think he's going to be a baller. I wanted Paulinho 2 years ago. I'm delighted he's at the club. We're allowed to have a doubt over one of the signings, right? So for me, I think Muani is a panic signing. What we desperately needed was a Lookman or a Savio from Man City. That for me would have been, yeah, now we're talking. I think Muani is a bit of a risk. Now, it could work out. I did say it could work out. I've explained how Thierry Henry moved around clubs before he found a place and it worked out. I think it's a risk. If it works, brilliant. If not, the punt didn't work. But because we left it to the last day, it's a bit of a punt for me, this. I think we left it last minute and he's the only one we could get on a loan deal. Again, believe what you want. I don't believe any of these reports, but I'm sure it gives us talking points. But the rumour, if you believe them, is that we did want Lookman, but because it was a purchase, not a loan with an obligation to buy, Spurs were looking for a loan. This seems like the only player that was on the market that they felt could maybe work that was a loan. Savio is not a loan. Lookman is not a loan. This guy's a loan. That's why he's at Spurs. So I think we've taken a bit of a risk. That's my opinion.
So I really want to come back and challenge you on that notion because
do it.
The assumption from what you're saying there is that there wasn't the money to spend. But before we do that, can we just quickly finish the dialogue on Muani as the player that we have got?
I said we were looking for a loan, Sean. I never said there's no money to be spent. We know we've got money, but I think they were looking. I think Spurs were looking for a loan deal today with an obligation to buy later on. Not we want to go and buy the player right now today. I don't. Otherwise, we would have got Lookman. Why didn't we sign Lookman then? Why didn't we sign Lookman?
Well, we're definitely going to come to that. 100%. It's the first. I just want to ask you quickly about Muani, and I get Johnny's take as well. So, do you rate the player? Are you happy with him? Is there a question mark? I know you've already mentioned you're not sure if why it is that PSG wanted to sell, but the player that you have seen, what do you think of him?
I think he's better than what we've got, but he's inconsistent. So, if you said to me, "Do you want Muani, Richarlison, or Solanke?" I want Muani. Do I think we could have done better? Yeah, I do. Absolutely. I think he's an inconsistent player, which is why he bounces around football clubs and no one's ever actually said, yeah, do what it takes to keep that player. If he was that good enough, he would have been secured by the bigger clubs he's been at, in my opinion. Doesn't mean he won't do well at Spurs. Maybe Spurs is the right environment for him to thrive and to maybe end up signing for us long term and he becomes a special player for us. I think we've taken a risk with this one. That's my view. I just think it's a bit of a punt.
Johnny, I'm going to come to you in just 2 seconds, but still, I just want to, because I've got this, not for the same reasons, but I've got a little bit of a weird feeling in my stomach regarding why it was that it was a loan without an option. I think I said it on my own channel. I feel like if the selling club wanted an obligation, I think that plays into your hand that maybe he's not wanted by PSG anymore. Why? Fair enough. But I can't really work out why it is that Tottenham wouldn't want an option, because if he doesn't perform, the option just gets rejected and he goes back. If he does perform and he smashes it out of the park without the option, you're going to bring in a new wave of interest at the end of the year. And so, as far as I'm aware, at this stage, there is no option on that deal. There was a lot of mixed messages from the various ITKs. Is that part of your reasoning as to why you think that maybe either the club didn't want him in the long term, or maybe the player didn't want to be here? What's the rationale for why there wouldn't have been an option on that deal?
Well, maybe PSG want him to go to another club, see how he does, and if he does well, great. PSG will have him back. He's found his feet, or maybe
But PSG wanted an obligation, so they wanted him to go, guaranteed, according to the reports.
Okay, but we haven't got an obligation.
Yeah, but we don't even have an option, which is to me the weirdest part
Well,
about
then PSG were desperate to get him off the books, then, weren't they? And we said, yeah, go on then.
To me, it implies the player wanted it that way because he's not sure on Spurs. That's what I would say. I think that is the player was happier with a straight loan than us having an option, even to your point, Sean, because why wouldn't we want an option? And if PSG want an obligation, they'd be happy with an option because it's somewhere in the middle. So to me, it implies the player wasn't sure, which is, I suppose, a slight concern.
Could it also be that Harry's coming back next summer, so it suits Spurs?
Oh, here we go.
Fair enough. Or maybe in January, Lubo. Before we get on to Harry Kane, Johnny, sorry, mate, I didn't want to sort of cut in there. What's your take on Kolo Muani, and what's your take on the overall relationship of the deal?
I'm still trying to work out how someone who plays 34 games for Eintracht Frankfurt, 16 goals, 15 assists in those 34 games, and goes for 95 million euros, is a flop for a start, or it hasn't done it. Sorry, didn't say flop, hasn't done it. Bounced around. He then goes to PSG. Now, we all know that PSG, the strength and depth is pretty insane. And how young he was when he was there. I still think he's got about 30 goals and about 15 assists. His goal ratio is nowhere near as good. That much is true. 31 games for France, 9-10 goals, I think it is, in the last 2.5 years. Again, not bad. And going out to Juventus with a loan with an option. Unfortunately, as I was saying before, they spent the entire summer trying to raise the money to do the deal. He stated he's had options, he's had interest from Bayern Munich, he's had interest from Man United, he had interest from other clubs, and he stipulated the whole way through, as you know, Sean, when we've done it on Football League, that he's not going anywhere other than Juventus. Midnight hour, they can't do the deal. Spurs nipped in. Opportunist, not planning. I'm not going to sit here and say Spurs have done well with their planning this summer, because they haven't. Simmons was an opportunity. This was an opportunity. This isn't anything down to planning, but I'm very happy that we signed the player. Would I prefer that we signed him with an obligation or an option? 100% yes. Is he better than Richie and Solanke? Hell yes. Has he got pace and power and good in transition that we need? Yes. Club World Cup, 3 games, 2 goals, 1 assist. I think he was Juventus' best player or most dangerous player. And I don't see anything other than a plus point for Spurs in the season ahead. Would have definitely liked to have seen some sort of option or obligation. And anyone who knows me knew that I really wanted him in the January transfer window. Can't blame him for wanting to choose Juventus over Spurs in the position that we were in and the sort of football that we were playing. Listen, I understand Stell's point, but I took exception to the point where he's bounced around and he hasn't really done it anywhere, because he did it at Eintracht Frankfurt. He did it in Serie A, 8 goals, 1 assist I think it's about 15 games since the February.
19 games.
In the league, mate.
Yeah, but he played 90. Okay, so let's dismiss the cup games that he played and didn't.
No, I'm not. I'm just saying in the league, right? Have you got the cups?
Yeah, but you're cherry picking the data that makes it look more.
No, I'm not cherry picking any data. I'm just the data that I know off the top of my head, mate.
Which is why I said 19 games to bring the
right. Okay, look, you stick on the Muani ain't a good deal, and I'll stick on.
Sorry for bringing the facts to the show. Sorry,
I am bringing facts, mate.
Johnny,
Brilliant.
you said he played 16 games, right? I'm saying he played 19. Yes, they were 3 cup games, but he played 19 games.
Okay.
I'm just
There's a few comments here. There's a few comments here from Randall Kolo Muani himself and also from the managers. Maybe that might throw some light on it. So Muani said, "I'm really happy and very proud to be at such a great club. I can't wait to meet my teammates, all the fans, and to get out on the pitch. I know what the coach expects from me. I will fight for the shirt, the club, and the fans. I will give everything for this team." And then Thomas Frank has also said, Randall is a quality player who has proven himself over a number of years, playing for big teams in the Champions League and also with good experience for the French national team. He's a good age in the prime of his career. He has good qualities that will suit both us and the Premier League and gives us a different option in the final third, being able to play out wide and through the middle. We are all excited for what Randall can add to the squad, and I'm looking forward to working with him. I mean, listen, you can't really kind of get too much from the like. There's obviously the risk of like missing the context, but to me that doesn't read like someone from either side of that party that are talking about a long-term relationship. It seems like it's I don't know. Am I wrong in that, Lubo? What's your thoughts, mate?
No, listen. I think it's interesting because obviously Muani isn't that upset about going on loan. Otherwise, he would have been happy with the move, wouldn't he? If he wanted to seriously get away from PSG, he's weighing up his options, isn't he? He can't see a place at PSG. He wants a Juve. They haven't got the money. So what's the next best stop? Tottenham Hotspur.
But my problem with that, Lubo, right, is from how familiar I've become with the player over the last couple of years, I've always felt like he's a hot and cold player. Like when he can be brilliant, he can be unplayable, but he can also have absolute, like, just look like he's putting his feet up. Someone put in the comment section earlier on, like a bit like an Adebayor, plays hard for his contract and then puts his feet up afterwards. I'm not going to throw that much shade at him, but I do worry a little bit. Like if he's here, no, I'm not going to be as disrespectful as to say under duress, but if he didn't want to be here, then obviously motivation in life is the thing that gets the best version of someone. And if he's here because he didn't have any other option, it's a concern for me. I'm not saying he won't be excellent. I'm just saying my initial reaction is the fact that there's no option, those sorts of comments, it feels like it's a short-term thing at best. And I'm not sure if that's the best way to get them motivation. The other argument, of course, is that it's a World Cup year. So, he's going to try his best for that, I guess. But I don't know. I feel like it's worth airing that, there might be some concerns in that regard.
Sure. Is not the best way to look at it that you look at it with transfer windows twice a year. So we've got September through to the end of December. So we've got 4 months. You then look at a situation. Frank will then look at a situation because I think we all saw at the weekend how short we were, and heaven help us if certain players get injured because the drop down from certain members of the first team is too big, in my opinion. And they'll look at it. Frank will look at it. I think I said on the show the other day that I think January will also be a very big transfer window because players who aren't getting minutes, who want to play for their country in the World Cup, will demand to leave in order to get minutes. So I think we're splitting the season now into 2. I just pray, for Muani. I think he'll come out of the traps all guns blazing. Looking forward to seeing him and Simmons away at West Ham Saturday week. And for me, it's a good move. I've got no worries. Let's just worry about this season. Can't worry about next season. Let's who knows what's going to happen. Let's see what goes down over the next few weeks, let alone the next few months. We've got a full fixture list between now and the end of December. So for me, I'm just thankful we've managed to get Muani through the door because he can play left wing. You could have him on one side, Kudus on the other, Richie in the middle. You could switch Richie and Muani as well. So you've got those options there. I mean, there are options. You could play Kudus as a 10 if you wanted to play. Sure. If you wanted to play Simmons wide. I don't know that there are various options. You could play. You could push Porro up and play Spence at right back. he has got a few options. I think the key thing over the next 4 months after this window, when the dust has settled, I think Gill and Solomon are leaving. I think they're going out the door.
Yeah, Brian Hill went to Girona today for I think it was 8 million, either pound or euro, I forget.
10 million.
And it looks like
I think.
Sorry,
it was 10 million euros. And
10 million euros, yeah. And then Solomon's gone for a loan to Palace.
So listen, we just keep our fingers crossed. We've got 4 long-term injuries now with Solanke, Dragusin, Maddison, and Kulu. So our squad of 28 is in fact 24. Just pray that we don't get many injuries over the next 4 months.
Connor, before we move on to, unless anyone else has got any more to add, I'm sure that I can see people shaking their heads, and maybe there's some disagreements. I'm not going to curtail the chat, but Connor, just quickly on the concerns regarding his motivation and how his motivation might affect his levels. Do you see it more as like, it's a World Cup year, regardless of whether he wants to be here, he's going to do his best because that's the all important thing? Or do you think that there's some sort of legitimacy to the idea that, the best version of himself is when he's motivated?
Yeah, I get the concern with the no option, no obligation point for sure, because that does feel like he's sort of not convinced necessarily by us, but then equally, we did finish 17th last year, so he probably wants to see how that goes this year. And yeah, you took the words out of my mouth with the World Cup year comment. I do also think, if I think about the way that Muani's style is, to me, it feels like a really nice fit for a Thomas Frank team. Frank likes to play, very athletic, quick on the transition. And that's where a player like Muani really thrives. So it feels a natural fit in terms of that. But who knows? I do get Stell's concern. I would say out of the 4 that we've signed, Muani's probably the biggest risk, given some of the context with the loan piece. But look, I think when you compare him to our other attacking options, most of which are crap, even a half motivated Muani provides you with something better than the likes of Tell and Odebert and Johnson in terms of normal sort of in play. So yeah, I'm happy with it overall.
Johnny and Stell, I can see you both shaking your head at various points in that last sort of few minutes. Do any of you want to come in to talk more about Muani, or can we move towards Simmons? Because I think there's a much more positive general vibe about him.
Move on. I just find it sort of, I totally get the question as to why there's no obligation or option. Totally get that. But as to say, a guy who's a French international who's playing for Juventus and did very well. We complain that we don't bring in players. We bring in players from clubs that have been relegated. And here we brought a player in who's signed for 95 million from PSG. Did very well when he went to Juventus. Ask anyone at Juve. And did well at Eintracht Frankfurt. And apparently, it's questionable whether he'd be any good for us. I think he's a massive upgrade on what we've got. I think that's pretty much in agreement, even if it's a risk. But I think that's it. I think, look, the proof is in the pudding, really. If he turns up and he does the job, I suppose the question is, if he does turn up and starts to enjoy life here, whether or not we can convince him to stay. And if he doesn't do the business, then we've lost nothing other than the extremely low £5 million loan fee. And just to say that he's made a nice profit today, Daniel Levy, £8.7 million from Brian Gill, and 8.7 million from him. A nice loan fee for a desperate Crystal Palace, and he's only coughed up 5 million for Kolo Muani. The wage bills more or less come down, apart from Simmons. So all in all, Daniel Levy will be very happy. But there's money left over, Sean, and it should have been spent.
Yeah, well, we're going to come to that. We're going to come to that for sure after we've just gone through the kind of other sides of the window. So, like Xavi Simmons, right? We haven't that's happened also since I think the last time we spoke, if I'm not mistaken. I mean, he is the game check for me of the 4 signings we've made this year.
Sorry, Sean.
Take your pick. Oh, sorry, Stel.
Can I have a final? Can I have?
Yeah, please. Sorry, mate. Sorry, buddy. Yeah,
that's all right. So
I just give you my honest opinion. That's all I do. And if it ends up being true, then great. When we signed Mateus Tel, after a few months, I said the guy's a waste of money, and I still think that. I said Odegaard, I don't think he's good enough for Spurs. I've never liked Richarlison or Solanke as strikers for Tottenham. I never understood the money we spent on them. And likewise, I never understood spending 4 million on Archie Gray. And Werner, I slammed to the ground when we signed him twice. I don't think I've been too wrong on them. I've praised the living daylights out of us signing Madison, and he turned out to be, I guess, our best combined goals, the best GA player we had last season. I praised Kudus when we signed him. I praised Polinia. I did a video ecstatic that we signed Xavi Simons. It's okay as a Spurs fan to have doubts over a signing, and I just think Muani is a risk. But I also said Thierry Henry was a risk because he bounced around clubs and look what happened. So I've never once said he's crap. I don't think Muani is shit. I just think it's a bit of a risk. But I also said he's better than Richarlison and Solanke. So on that basis, you take him. Because what we've got, the alternative is awful. So I just want to make that clear. I don't hate or dislike Muani. I don't think he's crap. I've just got a little reservation. That's all. Hopefully,
I'm 100% with you, mate. I spent 2 hours this morning trying to figure out the right words in the right order to make it sound like I wasn't trying to sort of be a damp squib on it, because I thought, like, generally speaking, I think it's a good move. I don't know whether or not the fact that you lost Solanke, as an option, if you hadn't lost him and you brought Muani in, and then you still had two options in the 9 and you could play, versatile players wherever. But if a versatile player goes down injured, then all of the power in versatility becomes a weakness, and that you lose those options in the 4 whatever positions that they can play. And I have the same concerns that you do, but I do think on his day he's a power player.
Sure. Yep. If we signed Lookman and Solanke wasn't injured, and then we got Muani on loan, I'd say, do you know what? This all makes a lot of sense here. This makes a heck of a lot of sense. But losing Solanke, not bringing in a proper out-and-out left winger, and just getting Muani on loan, I think it's a risk. I think it doesn't quite add up. And to be fair to Johnny, he did say there's more money there that should have been spent that we didn't. And I know we'll get onto that. I do agree with Johnny.
Can I just say that Lookman for me was the must get. For me, Muani was the cherry on the cake, because Lookman just fits into that role that we so desperately needed. An out-and-out proper goal-scoring left winger. Goal-scoring, 20 GA. He's done it the last 3 seasons. Mature, aggressive, exactly what we need. And, that much I would agree with Stel. Had we signed Lookman, and then you find Solanke needs his operation, and he's going to be out for a considerable time. Signing Muani to play up front is quite a frightening prospect, to have Lookman, Kudus, Simons, and Muani at the spear of that. That was very exciting. But
agreed,
as we'll get on to.
Okay, there you go.
Just disappeared at the key part of that sentence, Johnny.
Johnny, you cut out. You cut out the last bit.
Oh,
I don't think he realizes he cut out. I don't think he knows.
I think he's cut out. I think the Wi-Fi is trouble. Guys, before I sort of move on to the next question, we're not going to go through every one of the signings, but Simons. I think we didn't have Simons before the last time we spoke, so we've got to talk about him as well. But just quickly, I've just seen a message here. 220 likes and there's 1,500 people watching. Guys, you know the ratios. If you're watching this, just hit the like button. It really helps us. We're setting a target for 1,000 likes today, whether we can reach it or not, but aim for the stars, land on the sky. Let's talk about Xavi Simons, because this one, for me, different energy. For me, Xavi Simons is the guy that I've always wanted. He was the best of all the 10s available. He made the whole Eze thing work out, and I think he was a better fit. Obviously, if you put in the final pieces of the puzzle everywhere else, it would have been a dream effort. But we're still working with what we've got here. And Simons, to me, better passer, absolute connector in chief. He's a flair player. He's got the grit. He's got the grit, the graft, the determination. He can press from the front. He's got a little worldie in him or two as well. And the only question mark for me whether he's going to be a success is the unknown of the transition to the Premier League. Connor, I'll start with you on this one, mate. Xavi Simons, how excited are you for Xavi?
Yeah, I think you summarised that quite well. I mean, I agree. The only concern I've got is one that we can't answer until we see it, which is how well he transitions to the Prem. But I mean, in terms of a signing, it's outstanding. We've landed upwards after the debacles of Gibbs White and Eze. The price point is brilliant as well, which again, I know we're going to come back to the sort of missed opportunity of what else we could have done in the window. But, you know, for 51, 52 million quid, for someone at that age profile with that talent, that ceiling, plus how good he is already and what he's already done in the game at such a young age is an outstanding move. And to give some credit to Levy and the recruitment team, and it doesn't happen a lot. You know,
I'll be asking you for a bit more than that later on, mate. Don't worry about
that. They wrapped this deal up really quick as well, right? And
yeah.
I think straight after the signing, I came on your show, Sean, and I made the point because you already had journalists like Matt Law trying to diminish that it was a hijack. And if the shoe was on the other foot and Tottenham were in for him all summer, and then Chelsea came along and took him, it absolutely would have been. You'd have had Paddy Power tweeting, you'd have had Domino's tweeting, bantering Tottenham about it. So I think we should absolutely take some credit for that, getting that signing over the line. And it's one where, perhaps we did just sell him a better dream in the end as well. I know Chelsea dilly-dallied, but that was probably part of our sell to him as well, right? And, he's now the star man. On wages, we can compete with Chelsea because individually they are starting to bring wages down. And I think this signing has shown when you put the money up and you pay the wages and you sell the project, you can attract these types of players, which is what some of us have always said. So really, really fantastic signing. Super excited.
Yeah, love that, mate. Love that. Johnny, I want to come back to you, mate. Sorry, buddy. I don't know if you heard. I wasn't you cut out for the last sort of sentence of what you were saying before, but give you the second crack on this one, Johnny. Xavi Simons, how big of a deal do you think that this lad is? And I want to extend the chat just from his playability to, do other players in our team benefit from his unbelievable skill set that, for me, it's a no-brainer. You compare Maddison to him, not even a consideration. Same with Decky. Having him in the 10, does it allow our other players that maybe we've got questions about? Does it allow them to benefit? What is Xavi Simons going to bring to Tottenham Hotspur?
I think it's an interesting player because I'm not quite sure. He's not an out-and-out 10. He's not an out-and-out left winger. He's sort of like a hybrid of lots of different positions. I think I agree with Stel, what you said last week or the last one, where he has a little bit of an 8 in him. Can you still hear me? Sorry.
Yeah, you're fine.
Did I lose you?
No, you're fine.
Yeah, sorry. I think he's got a bit of an 8, a bit of a 10, a bit of a left wing. Basically what I feel at all. It doesn't. There's no one in the squad that's like him. And the question is really, where is Thomas Frank going to play him? I think in transition, he's going to be absolutely superb. Listen, he's a top player. I think the only question is how he does with the physicality in the Premier League. That for me is the only question. Riding the tackles, how does he cope with that? Is much quicker the Premier League. Obviously, we've seen Florian Wirtz. We can see clearly he's got lots of talent, Florian Wirtz, but he's slow at getting to grips with the pace of the Premier League right at the moment. And you might find that for the first couple of games, Xavi Simons has that issue as well. Kudos isn't going to have that problem because he's been in the league now. This is his third season. But it's a great signing. And we just have to see, like Stel said earlier, just because you're brilliant in one league, that means you're going to be great in another. So let's hope that this is the league where he finds himself. He's still only 22 years of age, and I think Thomas Frank will get Simmons playing even better than he did at RB Leipzig.
Johnny, I'll ask you the same question, mate. Again, I'm really not trying to poo-poo it. I'm just for the purposes of the conversation, I think it's a fair question to ask. If we're challenging the narrative of whether Kolo Muani wants to be here, is it okay to ask the same question about Xavi Simmons? Would he he signed the 5-year deal with a two-year extension, so he's going to have to he's going to want to be here now and hopefully commit to us. But if you can get the best out of him and you can get the best out of Kolo Muani, then Tottenham, if everyone can stay fit in that front five, then Tottenham can absolutely, tear teams apart at times, right? But Xavi Simmons needs to be not only a sort of an essential part of the recipe, but also a motivated and incentivized and kind of just buying in it and taking us to that next level, because Tottenham can be, with him being at his best, can go on to great things, right? No. Johnny's gone. Love it when you ask a question and you get nothing back. Stella, I'll turn to you.
Sorry, I didn't.
He's back.
Oh, I didn't get. Johnny's back. Sorry, Stella. Johnny's back. Sorry.
Look, I would say, sorry, the signal's bad. I mean, you'd think I was in darkest Africa at the turn of the century. I mean, I'm in Europe, in Greece, and a signal, the Wi-Fi is shocking. Look, I think the thing is with Simmons, I don't know. I just think that the kid is potentially one of the best players we've signed. He could go on to become a Spurs great. But let's be honest, right? I think when he was camped outside Chelsea waiting for the call to go there, he would have gone there merrily. I think the only reason this deal got done, I said this to you before, is because they went for Garnacho first, and he felt slighted that, so you're going to go for Garnacho and leave me hanging on. Oh, well, okay, fair enough. I'll go and sign for Spurs. I think Spurs found an opportunity when that Garnacho deal went ahead, that there was an opportunity for them to make the signing. I think both Muani and Xavi Simmons, as I said earlier, were just opportunities from Spurs. There's no planning with these two signings. They were just opportunities that presented themselves after we messed up with Morgan Gibbs-White and didn't read the room, and we messed up the Eze deal. So we messed up we misread the room on the Savinho deal. And these were two fortunate opportunities that came our way, and at the end of the day, might favour us long term. But this wasn't any planning.
Well, that's so. As soon as I've just finished with the same question with the other three around Simmons specifically, I do want to turn it. We don't want to deal with the other, 3 or 4 transfers because we've spoken about them before. So I do want to start asking about the kind of the reflections on the window, whether it's opportunistic, whether it's all by plan, and how we all feel before we move into the Burnley game. Still, same question. Xavi Simmons, obviously we haven't spoken about him since he signed, since we last spoke. Was he more of a needle mover for you than Kolo Muani? Do you have the same reservations about him as you do about Muani, or do you how do you feel basically?
Oh, no, not at all. He's the best signing we've made this summer. He's quality. He's a quality football player. He has the same output as Eze. Goals, assists, same output. Difference is Eze's done it in the Premier League. So the signing of Simmons comes down to perspective. If you want results now, you sign Eze. He's proven. He does it in the league. You saw on the weekend when he came on for Arsenal, they looked completely, they were more threatening. He got into Liverpool's defence, and that's like their toughest game of the season, Liverpool away. Eze's going to have a cracking season for Arsenal if he stays fit. We might not get that straight away with Simmons. But if you're thinking long term, he's got the same output as Eze. He's 5 years younger. What's this boy going to be like at 25, let alone 27?
Yeah.
He's doing it now. And for me, just watching him play, everything about him, left foot, right foot, a variation of through balls, killer passes, scores goals. People try and chop him or clip him. He keeps his balance. He pulls away from the tackle. First touch beats a man. There's so much to this boy's game. He's going to need time to settle at Spurs. He's probably shocked watching us on the weekend, by the way. So he might need to a bit of therapy after that. But he is going to mature into a very, very good player at Spurs as long as he stays fit and the weight of the club isn't put on his shoulders. Because I saw Kudus trying to carry the club on Saturday and he couldn't handle the weight of everything on his shoulders. That's what it felt to me on the weekend. Give it to Kudus. Give it to Kudus. You've got to save us. Like, guys, this isn't a one-man team. Very, very few players can do that. Gaza, Bale, they did that, right? We're talking about the elite of the elite now. Yep. Kane. So, but having said that, listen, I'm so excited to see Simmons play for Spurs. I can't wait for him to play in the 10. The only negative, and it's not his fault, I don't blame Simmons, is if he hasn't got players that make those runs for him to feed in that can finish the ball, it's going to become frustrating. Because really, who's he feeding at the moment? Richarlison and Brennan Johnson. Okay, maybe Johnson can score a couple.
Well, Johnson's going to be a massive beneficiary again of someone else's hard work. He was last year with Solanke, and I think he might be this year with Simmons, to be fair.
I hope so. But if he's feeding Tell and Odobert, I fear it. So, yeah, look, Simmons for me, top player, cracking signing for Spurs. Never, ever thought we'd get him. Never. Happy to be wrong on that one because it's made me happy. And, what's really, really good about Simmons is he has signed that long-term deal. So even if he does get the hump, or even if he does in 2 years' time say, fuck this, what have I done? I want out. We've got all the leverage in the deal like we did with Kane when he wanted to go. So
true.
There's a lot of positives. And listen, for me, I said Paulinho was going to be the most important player this season. I think now Simmons surpasses that. I think Simmons will be the one for us.
Do you know what, Connor? Like after what I saw from Paulinho on Saturday, I thought he was absolutely atrocious, and I can't figure out why. He was awful, and I'm even more. I mean, we're going to come to it. As I said, in the second, what does everyone think about the window? How do you view it? Because there's still gaps left. But I tend to think now, after watching that performance, I know 90 minutes is kind of is too small a sample size, but I was in Stell's camp, right? I thought Paulinho was the most important thing, fixing that 6. Xavi Simmons, though, changes the game for me. I think he's someone that can, in an instant, you could be 2-0 down and he can have a moment of magic. You can be 1-0 up and then you can put the game to bed. This guy is capable. And the reason I asked the question around who else is going to benefit is because I think that if you've got that locksmith, then other players that don't do very much or that go quiet, they can lean into him to be able to guide to be the person that creates that opportunity, and they can be beneficiaries as well. How excited are you, mate? Or do you have a different take on it?
No, definitely. I mean, he's a talisman, isn't he? And I think he's the type of player as well, even at such a young age, just because he's been such a name for so long, that just creates a buzz, right? And I can imagine that other players in the squad are excited that we were signing him. I think, just getting that type of player and that type of talent in the squad is beneficial for everyone, I think, in terms of raising levels. So, yeah, absolutely agree with you. I think on the Paulinho one, look, I personally don't think he should have played against Bournemouth. I think he's still working up to full fitness. You've got to remember, he hasn't played that many minutes for a long time, right? Didn't get a full pre-season. Was fantastic against Man City, and then, as you say, was a bit pretty abysmal, as was the majority of the team against Bournemouth. So, but for me, I wouldn't have played him. I would have played Bentancur and Sarr as a double pivot, and then brought Bergvall in, just to freshen things up a little bit. But yeah, so look, I think with Paulinho, there's going to be games where he's absolutely critical. PSG away, right? You want Paulinho fit and ready to go for that game. There's other games where I think Frank will probably revert back to that sort of double pivot of Asar and Bentancur perhaps. But yeah, for me, Simmons is our most important now, particularly as we don't have a number 10 other than him. So other than if you put Kudus in that position, but then I think that negates Kudus's best traits. So yeah, absolutely buzzing with the signing.
Is there, just quickly, Colin, before I come to Lewis, is there any chance where, because we didn't get a left winger in the end, obviously at the moment we've got, Muani that can play in the 9. He has played 80% of his minutes in the 9, right? So you'd maybe think that there's a chance that he'll start in the 9 against West Ham, and you might see Richarlison put on the left. But is there a chance where you might see Muani in the 9, Simmons in the 10, and Pape Sarr, who, let's be honest, hasn't exactly disappointed playing in that more advanced role? Is there any chance you might see something a little bit more creative in terms of filling the left wing spot with Xavi and then putting Muani in the 9 and then putting Kudus on the right, and then letting Sarr see if he can work his magic with more monsters around him?
Yeah, I could see that. I think Simmons, when you look at his stats, has played almost as many games, I think, when I last checked it, in the left wing position as he has in the 10, or very similar. Certainly a higher percentage than a Muani, perhaps, who's played out on the left. Yeah, so I could see that. I sense at the moment, it depends on Solanke's injury, I suppose, as well, how many minutes Muani gets on the left versus through the 9. I personally want to see Simmons in the 10 just because I want to see him really affecting the game and running games and being that talisman for us that with Maddison out we're really missing. But yeah, I think there's different games you play different. You can play. You got some options at least now with those two coming in that we definitely didn't have on Saturday. Yeah,
nice, mate. Fair take. Lubo, to round it off, mate. Xavi Simmons, talk to me, mate. Make me moist with what you're expecting. What are you expecting from this guy?
Steady.
Got Gaza vibes.
You got Gaza vibes. Now we're talking.
Yeah. The way Gaza was given a free rein, and he had so much ability, so much natural ability, and he was able to run with the ball. He could play players in. I'm just looking forward to it. With Kolo Muani and Kudus, and let's hope Richie gets back to form, because I don't know what happened to him on Saturday. That was appalling. For me, if those four are firing, we're going to be causing a lot of teams a lot of problems. Because we haven't got much else. You got Tell and Odebear, who for me aren't ready. So
Gaza.
I just think he's got that maverick type. He's a maverick type of player.
Great Paul Gascoigne. Are we doing this?
He's a flair player. Gaza.
I asked him to give me a reason to get excited. And to be fair, he did it. You did it. So.
I mean, Gaza.
The other thing also is you can't. Sarr is fine if you're playing at Man City or you're playing at PSG or you're playing at Liverpool. You play Sarr in midfield with a Polina and a Bentancur because you're going to be defending and you need Sarr's legs. But I wouldn't be playing Sarr in a 10 when you've got to unlock teams. Now you've got Simmons. That's brilliant. I agree with you, Connor. I'd have played Sarr with Bentancur in the pivot on Saturday, because we didn't have any legs and they just ran round us, didn't they? It was a bit like watching Højbjerg, who was a good midfield player, but again didn't have legs, and it reminded me a bit. We need legs in midfield to get about, and unfortunately Saturday showed us where we're lacking. But no, Simmons, really looking forward to seeing him. It could take, as Johnny said, don't expect him to just come in and slot in and just, play it like Kudus has, because Kudus has had 2 years. You've seen Florian Wirtz is taking time to transition into the Premier League, and because the intensity in the leagues that Simmons has played in is nothing like the Premier League. So it's going to take him time to get used to the pace of it. You just don't get a minute on, to breathe. So he's turning, picking up the ball on the half turn, playing in players, actually running at players, going round players, creating space, pulling defences apart by beating players is going to be so key, because we haven't really had that. Maddison's very good with clever reverse passes, but but he's nowhere near it in terms of the pace and the speed that Simmons moves at. Maddison's nowhere near. So it's a different type of 10. So no, really looking forward to it. Looking forward to seeing Gaza-type goals and Gaza-type dribbles.
Love that, mate. Love that. Listen, guys. So what we're going to do now is going to quickly run through the super chats, but then I want to get into the kind of, I guess, the bigger part of the question tonight is